everybody. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Lenee, and this is live from 1985, the podcast. Today on our episode, we are going to be talking about Nicole, actually, because she is about to give birth to her fourth child, a daughter, and we're going to get into how she goes about that because she does not do it the traditional way. She actually has home births. So her husband actually births her child, and this is going to be your second home birth, right?
My second, yes, ma'am.
Second home birth. So I'd call you a home birth expert at this point. If you make it to the first one, it just seems like, you just duplicate that same thing. Even though all kids are different, but we're definitely going to get into some conversation about that. She's going to run us down how that all works. And we're also going to get in, talk a little bit about wanting to have kids and the struggles that people go through trying to have kids, which that would be kind of my life. I am married, wanting to have a child, have never been pregnant, but going through those phases of trying to conceive. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And in our A Million Opinions segment, we're going to talk about surrogacy and how that works, how we feel about it, our opinions on it, and if we would ever do it or not. So let's get right into it. So my first question for you is, how did you start doing home births? Like, what inspired this?
So at-home births was a choice for me for a couple of different reasons. The first reason was my hospital experiences were not what I thought they would be. Just real quick, my first two births in the hospital were my two older boys, and I had to get Pitocin, which Pitocin is a drug that jumpstarts your labor pains, and it increases the frequency. It increases the frequency and it increases the pain, period. But I tried to do a natural birth with both of them, but having that Pitocin, the pain was just unbearable. So I ended up having epidurals with both of them too. And the couple things that I didn't enjoy were, it's not that the staff were unfriendly or anything, but they just don't know you. They're not family, they're not friends, they're staff. And even though they could be, sweet and nice, you have different people with different temperaments, different energies. Some of them did have kind of like attitudes, I don't know, maybe who knows what happened to them at home or whatever, but I didn't like that energy in the hospital with me. Not to mention people can randomly come in and out whenever they wanted, nurses, CNAs, doctors. So my experiences were they were not great. The second thing is I started realizing when I met my husband, he started telling me about the maternity deaths among our women and how it's very much increased over Caucasian women. So I did a little bit of research, and the maternity mortality rate is 3.5 times higher than non-Hispanic Caucasian women. And the main reasons for the deaths are preeclampsia, eclampsia, cardiomyopathy, embolism, and hemorrhages. And my mother actually hemorrhaged when she gave birth to my younger brother and had almost passed giving birth to him. And she said it was because the doctor literally, when she had my brother, he sort of was, because the umbilical cord along with the placenta takes a second to come out. It's not the baby, then the placenta. It takes a minute or two. And the doctor said, oh, this is taking too long, and literally yanked a little bit on the umbilical cord. Yeah, God. On the umbilical cord. And it caused the placenta to come out, but too soon. And she hemorrhaged and bled, and she had to get a blood transfusion. Yeah, it was, I can only imagine how traumatic that was. So when you have people who are there for a job and aren't there for the experience, it makes a difference. And I'm not at all saying that, every doctor and every nurse and every CNA is like that. But in my experiences, they were very much there for the job. They weren't there for me. So my daughter, we decided to have her at home. We contacted a doula. In the state of Illinois, it is illegal for professionals to deliver the baby. And when I say deliver, it literally means they cannot pull the baby. When the baby's coming out, they cannot touch the baby. They can be there for you, they can be present, they can monitor heartbeat, heart rate, everything like that. But once the babies come out, they cannot have any interaction with the baby. So that's what delivery is. So when we talked to a doula, she said she could do all of the things beforehand, but couldn't deliver a baby, and we still pay the same price. So I was like, that's the whole point, is for you to deliver the baby. So we talked to a doula, talked to a couple different doulas, ordered the packaging. You know, we bought this whole package with this huge tub, a birthing tub, birthing materials, all this stuff. It was pretty expensive. But we ended up opting out on the doula because we just started doing research ourselves on delivering babies. I mean, we were doing it for hundreds of thousands of years before we started going to hospitals. So we were like, I'm pretty sure this is something we can do on our own. And that's what happened. We had our daughter at home. It was scary, but once it happened, it happened. So, but that's our reasons why. Not only that, we want to have, and this is a little bit, this is getting a little deep. We want to have a free and natural child. So when you're in a hospital, you're having your child in a business, and it's mandatory once you walk through those doors and you sign that paperwork, you have to register your child. So you have to get the birth certificate and sign up for the Social Security card and everything like that. If we do it at home, we don't have to do those things. So she won't be tied to anyone but us. So those are the reasons why we're having our at-home births.
So during your first your at-home labor, how long were you in labor for?
So I found out labor is a tricky thing. Labor is a lot longer than we think. Again, when my hospital births, when they give you the Pitocin and it increases the frequency of your contractions, with my oldest son, I was in labor for about 16 hours. With my second son, I was in labor for about 14 hours. With my daughter, we had at home, I was in labor with her for about 2 days. But it's not, since I didn't have the medication in me, the contractions were really spaced out. They weren't that painful. They were like really, really bad cramps, but I can tolerate it. I didn't need to take any drugs. I didn't feel like I wanted to take any drugs. It was just kind of, I don't want to say an annoyance. It was just uncomfortable a little bit, but my husband was there. He was always rubbing my back, making me feel better. So once I had the contractions, I started having the contractions on a Friday afternoon. It seemed like all Saturday, nothing happened. So maybe a day and a half. It was like Friday afternoon, all Saturday, nothing happened. Sunday came, and into Sunday night, I'm like, nothing's happening. We had the tub blown up, all this stuff. I'm like, nothing's happening. Let's go get something to eat. I said, because I'm so used to the hospital thing, like the contractions are back to back to back to back. But my contractions were regular, but they weren't that frequent. So I'm like, you know what? I think this is just going to be a long labor. So I'm like, let's go get something to eat. So we went to go get some pizza. And I'm in the truck, and they're starting to come a little bit more frequent. Like they're starting to happen like maybe 5 minutes apart. So my husband's back in the truck. He's got the pizza. I'm like, let's hurry up and get home. We got home. He's putting the pizza in the oven. I get in the tub, the bathtub, because we had put everything up, because I'm like, this ain't gonna happen. And so I get in the bathtub, and I'm sitting in the bathtub, and he comes in there, and he's like, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, but I think I gotta take a poop. So I get up, I sit on the toilet, and the pain, I'm being very, it feels like a bowel movement. It feels like you're about to, I thought I was going to have a bowel movement.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing, but I'm not pushing because it's starting to be very painful.
Right.
And my husband's looking at me, he's like, stand up. And I stand up, he's like, I see the head. So I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna happen. So he's telling me to push, but I can't push because at this point, this is the pain that's kind of like unbearable.
Yeah.
It's like a horrible, horrible cramp. And I will tell you, my daughter did all the work. I did not push at all because I was so busy trying to hold her in to stop the pain. But she pushed herself out. My husband caught her. Now when the head comes out, you have that ring of fire. That's a bitch. But it's still bearable. It wasn't horrible. It just felt like a burning sensation. After the head came out, it was, the shoulders came out. Head and shoulders are the hardest part. And the rest of the baby came out. He handed it to me, cleaned her off, and that was that.
Did you cry?
I did.
Like, were you emotional? Like, how did you feel?
I was happy she was out of me. So one part, I guess I left out. When she was coming out, when he said, I see the head, and she started crowning and coming out, I started screaming like I said, get her out of me. I started screaming at my husband, get her out of me. And once she came out and he put her in my arms, it was emotional, but I didn't cry. I was like, I don't know, I was just happy. I was in awe, like we just did this.
I know.
We just did this.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And then another thing is the babies are much more lively. At the hospital, they come out and they do cry, but they're lethargic, from medicine you're taking, the epidurals and all the stuff that you have to do, all that stuff you take goes into the baby too. And I noticed with my boys, they didn't breastfeed for like the first, I don't know, it felt like a day that they did not breastfeed. And then they finally came in and it was like, okay, it's time to feed the baby. Well, my daughter, when she came out, my husband, after the placenta came out, and he made sure all the cord blood was put into her. Then he went and he washed her off. He cut the cord, washed her off, brought her back to me. That had to have been maybe 20 minutes. And she was hungry. She was ready to eat. So I, started breastfeeding her and she fell asleep and we slept together and it was just.
Oh, sounds so nice. Like,
yeah,
wow.
It was unreal. It was unreal. I kept thinking like this really happened.
Yeah, like I just had my baby. Because the experience is like even culturally not that. So to be like, go from your bathroom to your bed with a brand new baby, when you went to the bathroom, you didn't have a baby. It's like,
yeah, it was very surreal. It was very, we put the clothes we wanted on her. We bathed her with the water we wanted to. In the hospital, they put the stuff on their eyes. She didn't need any of that. And the funny thing was, when we went to the hospital, I ended up having to go to the hospital still. I didn't want to, but I had to go to the hospital still because I was still working. And I had to prove to my job, in order for me to get maternity leave, that I had a baby. So unfortunately, we still had to go to the hospital. And when we got there, they were just like, what's going on? And we're like, we just had the baby. And they're like, when? And we waited not a day, because she came at night, we slept, then we went in at about 12 o'clock the next day. And they were like, so did this just happen? We're like, no, she came last night. And they're like, and you had her at home? Like they were just.
It's so foreign to them.
Yeah, they were just so shocked. But it was almost like, it wasn't like, oh, wow, you did this by yourself. They were like, what? Like they just couldn't believe it. And it was pissing us off. But anyway, and the first thing they did, because we brought the placenta with us, the first thing they did was check that cord. And I noticed with my two boys, when I had them in the hospital, they take your once they cut the cord, that's why they cut it so quickly. They cut it as soon as the baby comes out, they cut it quickly and they take all that cord blood and you'll see them put it in this vial. And the first thing they did was they checked to see if anything was left in there. And of course, it was nothing in there because my husband did what they did in the hospital, but he did it to the baby, which is what you should do.
Yeah.
And they were upset about that, that we put our baby's cord blood
in her,
our baby. Yeah.
How dare you give your baby what's hers?
Right. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, but anyways, the question was how long I was in labor. So it was about 2 days. But it was no, you said how was I crying and stuff? No, I it was just surreal.
Well, not necessarily crying, just did you feel emotional? Did you feel I just wonder how you felt after that.
It was so surreal. It was just, even now when I think about it, I'm like, that happened. We did that at home and it was no complications. There was no problems. There was nothing. It just happened. And even with me kind of holding back, because it was so painful. And here's what I like to tell people. I have a low tolerance for pain and I can handle it. So I know it's not, it wasn't that bad, because I was holding back like, oh my gosh, this hurts. I don't want to push. She's like, you got to push. And I'm like, I don't want to push. And she's like, well, I'm coming out whether you push it or not. So.
So what was your health like leading up to this?
Now that's a very, very good and important question. So I've always been pretty healthy. I didn't have any issues, no preeclampsia, no high blood pressure, no gestational diabetes. I didn't have anything. Now I was at the time, let me see, I was 33. So I was right before the age where they say you're high risk because of your age. So I had no issues. I had no problems. I was considered, healthy. Both my boys were delivered vaginally, so I didn't have C-sections or anything like that. No scars, no surgeries. So that's important. I do tell women, if you do have issues or any type of health concerns, I wouldn't recommend having a baby at home. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't. Or if you do have a doula, do have a professional who knows how to monitor you and the baby's health. But since I was healthy, I didn't see a need for that. And that's the same thing with this situation. Nothing's really changed. I'm still, I don't have any high blood pressure or gestational diabetes or anything like that. So when I go in, they're like, heads down, baby's fine. Cause I'm still seeing a doctor. I've still seen a doctor. So, and it's at the point where you go in and they're just like, you're in there for 5 minutes because they're like, heart's fine, this is fine. So I'm like, what's the point of coming here? And I get it, they want to monitor, but for healthy women, if you're healthy, then you're healthy, but if you do have complications, I do say, make sure you're under the supervision of some type of healthcare provider. I would never tell somebody if you have any type of ailment to just do it at home by yourself. But I am considered, they call me a geriatric pregnancy because I'm 37. That's crazy to me.
That is to me too, because it's like geriatric, we ain't 60.
Right.
What is that?
Anything over 35 is and you're considered high risk. I'm considered high risk because of my age. And I don't agree with that. I think if you're healthy and you've been healthy, if you're 40, 50, even 60, my grandmother had a baby in her 50s, So
you brought up the placenta. Did you eat it? And how do you feel about eating it? Do you think it's good? Do you know the health benefits of it? Like, what do you think about it?
So we went back, and me and my husband actually went back and forth. We watched videos and everything on this. We did not eat it. We did not consume it, only because here's what when we did the research on it, the placenta and what it's used for, it's a filtration system. It makes sure that your baby stays healthy from you. So if there's any viruses or bacteria, certain viruses, bacterias, anything unhealthy will not reach the baby. You know, it's that filtration. It also filters in oxygen and other things like that. Filters blood, especially if your baby has a different blood type. So we, you know, in my mind, because we look, you know, all mammals eat their baby's placenta. If you see dogs having puppies, cats having kittens, horses, you know, all mammals eat the placenta after the baby comes out. But most mammals, if they're not domesticated, usually have a very good diet. And I thought to myself, you know, even though me and my husband do strive to eat the best, there are times we do still go to the grocery store. We know we try to garden and fish for our food, you know, forage, hunt, things like that. But there's times we still have to go to the grocery store, and there's times I still eat like crap. And I feel like that placenta holds that in. So I was like, I don't know if I want to consume that, you know. And I've seen some people cook it. I've seen some people dehydrate it and make it into pills and do this and do that. So we thought about it, and we're like, so the best thing, the conclusion we came to is we buried it. We buried it in our garden. So we're still getting something from it. It's just indirectly. So we allowed our plants to sort of
take the nutrients from it.
Takes the nutrient, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we eat the plants. So
yeah. Kind of like compost.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that was our way of consuming it in a more natural and healthy way. And we'll probably do the same with this one. We'll probably bury it. I think I'm going to be more specific. I think we just buried it somewhere in the backyard. And then we just planted. I think I'm going to plant a specific plant on top of it, you know, in a separate little space.
Yeah.
So then we can eat, you know, we know when we eat this tomato or whatever, we're getting the nutrients from that fruit. So
yeah, that's so interesting. It's very earthy. Okay, as far as you saying you're not going to register the baby and everything like that, and basically like she's going to be born and she's just going to start living her life, you're going to doctor's appointments and things like that. They don't expect you to at some point let them know that you had the baby, or I'm asking, is there anyone else that gets involved with like, hey, you got to do this? That's kind of what I'm asking.
No, because it's not illegal.
Oh, okay.
It's not illegal to do that. You don't have to do these things, and people don't comprehend that aspect. Just like you don't have to pay taxes. You know, there's a lot of things we don't have to do, but we feel like we have to do them. Because there's a difference between law and I forgot the other word that was used. But there are some things that are against the law, and there's some things that are, it's like not moral code or something like that, but you don't have to. Now, the thing is, we are going to have things set up for her, because I know there's probably going to be a lot of questions like, well, how is she going to do this and how is she going to do that? She will have all of that. We will have her set up. And then here's the thing. If later on she wants to do that, it's in her right to do that. You know, we will have documentation of when, where that she was born here. We're going to record it and all that, so she can prove that she was born here. It's just, for example, if I'm not an immigrant or an illegal alien, but if, let's say, and this is the best example I can use, forgive me. Like, let's say somebody from Mexico comes up here and they have a baby, but they just have the baby at home.
Yeah.
You see that a lot, actually, more often than you think. They'll have the baby at home. They won't tell anybody for years and years. And then they go get the baby registered. It's not that difficult of a process. It really isn't. So if she decides to do that, that's definitely her right. But we will have things set up for her to where she shouldn't have to. You know, we'll have, and that's kind of where, you know, we talk about this a little bit with the generational, I think we're going to try to stop using curses, but generational changes.
Cycles.
Cycles. You know, we'll have land for her. We'll have, you know, everything she'll need. Anything she needs, she'll have. And the type of times we're living in today, information is readily available. everywhere. You know, people think you have to go to school to get knowledge. You don't. You can get the knowledge right off the internet. They're literally teaching college classes on the internet where you can learn, you know. So yes, they have, I've already told them I'm having my baby at home. Now they've said, you know, they did give me the same look. They were like, well, we have birthing centers and you can get a doula and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I would like to have my baby home. They didn't ask me any questions. They said, okay. Now they did say, if you want to bring the baby back up here to get checked out, and I haven't said anything about that. What I'll probably say is I'm going to go to a different provider. Because that probably will raise eyebrows, but what are you going to do? Because they want to push vaccines and all this other stuff. So it is within my right to choose a different provider for my baby. And they don't have to know who that provider is.
Yeah.
So, you know, my appointments after I, you know, tell them I'm having the baby at home, or I've chosen another provider. And I use the word provider specifically because who that is none of their business.
Right. That could be you.
There you go.
I'm my own damn provider.
Yeah, girl, put two and two together. I didn't say it, but you did, so that's good.
Hey, I'm just saying.
So I'm going to choose another provider to care for my child after she is born. And they can write that in their notes, or I don't know, do whatever they want with it after that.
Well, that's what's up. Do you think her life is going to be different than your other kids' lives? Because you're going such a different route with this one?
I don't think so. So maybe different than my oldest. My oldest went through, I mean, he's still in school now, actually, but he lives with his father as well. That's his choice to have him still go to school. And my oldest has also had like vaccinations up until now, and he has lived a very different life. My younger two, they're both homeschooled. My middle one, my second boy, he had a shot. He had like the vitamin K and something else, another shot at the hospital when he was born. We declined vaccines, but they did, you know, talk us into giving him a vitamin K shot or something like that. And then with my daughter.
What was the purpose though of the vitamin K? Yeah.
So vitamin K is used for it's something about and I don't know exactly. I looked it up before, but I can't remember exactly. But babies' stomachs cannot sort of break down certain foods or break down certain bacteria, I think it is, and they don't produce vitamin K that much. So they give them that vitamin K to help with their digestion, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong about that. So they gave my son vitamin K, and then with my daughter, we declined it. So they sent us home with a vitamin K. No, they gave her vitamin K orally. They talked us into go ahead and give her vitamin K orally. So they gave her a little bit of vitamin K orally, and they gave us something to go home with. And once I looked at it and made sure, you know, that it was what it was, I still think we didn't give it to her. I ended up taking more vitamin K. Because I will say this, so when I looked it up myself, that vitamin K deficiency and the issues that you have from not having the vitamin K happens more in areas where they don't have sufficient amount of nutrients in their food. But if the mother is eating correctly and the baby is eating correctly, then that problem is very rare in our country. So what I did was I upped my vitamin K intake with food and supplements. And then when I breastfed, I knew she was getting that vitamin K. You know, I'd rather it filter through me than me give her vitamin K direct. You know, you're telling me that her stomach is, you know, it's fragile and this, but you want to give her a whole shot of vitamin K. So, yeah, so but the difference I think with her, my youngest daughter, is the way we raise them won't be different, but she won't have that paperwork. She's not going to be tied to anything. You know, she's not going to be in the system, you know, which is a big deal for us, you know, because a lot of people now are trying to get out of the system.
Right.
and don't know how.
Yeah.
And she has that, she has that to where she, nobody can look her up. Nobody can have any type of, and I know, because I had this conversation with somebody else and they're like, well, what if she wants to travel? What if she wants this? What if she wants that? And again, I get that, that may come up. And later on, it's definitely her choice. If she wants, because unfortunately, they have a handle on things where you can't travel out of country with a passport. You can't do this without an ID card. You can't, so they do make it difficult to not be in the system. But we want her to be able to choose. You should be able to choose, not be in this predicament where if you don't want to, people who have land and just want to be on their land and not go anywhere and not be a part of the system, they don't have a choice. They weren't given that choice at birth. So I've got a couple questions for you and your journey.
Oh no.
So my first question is, how has the journey been so far trying to conceive, and what hurdles have you had to cross?
So, let's see. So if I go all the way back, I knew that my body was different when I was younger, like when I was in high school. I didn't get my period till I was about, I was a freshman in high school. I think it was it was either the summer before I went to high school or the summer before I became a sophomore. But either way, I was about 13, 14. So a lot of my other friends, they had their period already. So I felt like that was kind of like a little later, which was fine. But my period never came consistently. It would always be like I'd have one this month and I might not have one for another like 6 months, and that was like right out the gate. It was already irregular when I knew other girls were having them like clockwork. They'd know like, oh, my period's coming in 5 days. I'm like, how do you know that? My period will be here maybe in 3 months. I don't know, So when I went to the doctor as a teenager, they immediately wanted to put me on birth control. They never wanted to find out the source of what was going on. They just made it seem like it was a normal thing. This happens to girls. They go on birth control. It fixes itself. You just be on it for a little bit, take it for a couple months, get off. It should regulate. That never happened for me. So I'd be on birth control like off and on, off and on. I'm not really good at taking pills. So I'm the kind of person where I would start a pack and fuck up around week 2, and then I would just throw that pack away. And then, I'd be on it sometimes. I wouldn't be on it sometimes. I wasn't having sex. So it was kind of like, I'm not trying to control birth. You know what I mean? I want a regular period. I want to be regular like everybody else, So anyways, did that for several years, never consistently, but, off and on, I was on birth control. Got in a serious relationship when I was about 26. I'm still having these issues. I did notice throughout my years that when I would lose weight, sometimes when I'd be a certain weight, it would come more consistently, but it was never like 28 days or like every 30 days. It was like every 50 days. So it might come this month at the end of the month. So it would skip the whole next month and come at the beginning of the following month. So it'd be kind of like that. Like I had my own setup, but it still wasn't normal. You know what I mean? So when I turned about 30, I got married in April of 2016 at 30 years old. And so come November of that same year, that's when I was kind of like, okay, I know something's wrong. I've been having unprotected sex for a while with the same guy. At this point, we had been together for 4 years. Nothing had ever happened. And so I went to the doctor. I started, researching infertility and just things that are going on. And I went to this doctor. She was an Indian doctor. And I found her online. I didn't have a, what's it called? A reference or, referral or anything like that. So I went to her and I go in, I'm sitting on the table. She walks in. She gets close to me like this, and she's like, you have PCOS. She's like, well, do you still want me to do the scope or whatever? She's like, it's $90. You okay with that? And I'm like, bitch, I got money. Like, I know, I knew it was going to be a cost. I'm ready for this. Like, but she was just very direct. And if you ask me, rude, because hello, you don't know me and I have an issue and I'm coming to you for it. The last thing I need to do is for you to throw that shit in my face, but either way, she basically told me that I was overweight. At the time, I was probably like maybe 150 pounds. I'm 5'1", so I am short. I am a small frame woman. I'm petite. So I was overweight compared to their charts, you know, which I feel are very much European charts. But she even said that she gave me like a 10-pound, you know, curve just because I was Black. So she basically told me like, hey, you need to get down to about 120 pounds. Either that or you need to go on metformin. And so I asked her, well, if I start metformin, like when can I get off of it? She was like, I don't know, you've been on it for the rest of your life. And I just didn't like that answer, you know? And at that time, she had another lady in the room with her. I guess she was like a resident doctor. Like she was, you know, getting training to become a doctor. And she was African. And she looked at the doctor too. And we both looked at each other. And she was like, do you have any questions? And in my head, I was already like, I want out of here and I'm not coming back, you know? So I was just like, no, thank you, you know? And I left thinking like, damn, so this whole time it was just my weight, you know? And then when I asked, as soon as she walked in, you know, she told me I had PCOS. She did end up doing the scope. You could actually see, you know, there's like pearls on my ovaries. It's just like dot, 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 like a little smile. But you could see that. The thing is, though, she said I had plenty of eggs. That wasn't a problem. And I really didn't have any other issues besides the PCOS. So now let me explain what she told me PCOS was. When I asked her, what is PCOS? It's basically like a hormone imbalance, and I'm also insulin resistant. And so the main things that come with PCOS are weight gain. And I wasn't severely overweight and didn't look overweight, although I was, you know, like about 150 pounds at 5'1", but I didn't look it. But she said that's the one thing that I didn't have, because most people with PCOS are overweight or have some type of weight problem or have problems losing weight. And I never had that. Like if I get serious about my dieting, I'll drop weight like that. And I've never been super big. You know, I know that I'm overweight because I can feel it. But, you know, for the most part, people don't look at me as an overweight person. So that was the one thing. But I do grow, you know, dark hairs around here and sometimes here. I've been shaving it. Not shaving, I'm sorry, waxing it, you know, for a long time. So it's become thinner, but it's still there. And, you know, I was having irregular periods and I had the cyst on my ovaries. That's all indicative of PCOS.
PCOS, yeah.
Also, I had a receding hairline. My hairline goes back a little bit further because I have like male pattern baldness. And that's part of PCOS as well. I also have really thick hairs, like on my legs and things like that. Like it grows really thick. So those are all symptoms of PCOS. I had all of them except for the severely overweight. And so after I left that doctor, I just decided, you know, like this isn't working for me, you know. And also the other thing she told me was that PCOS is basically where you have higher testosterone levels. So when I asked her, so what's causing the high testosterone? She's like, the PCOS. So what's causing the PCOS? The higher testosterone.
The high testosterone.
And it was just like, I'm like, you're not really giving me answers, you know? So I didn't feel satisfied by that. Gave it kind of like a couple months break, started to kind of just digest everything she was saying. She did prescribe me the PCOS. I didn't end up taking it. I just didn't feel comfortable about it. I went online, I read up on it. The side effects didn't seem like it weighed the benefit. You know what I mean? So I just was like, I'm cool on it. You know, I'm not a good medicine taker anyway. So next I meet this actually lady that's going to school to be a doctor at the place that I worked. She lived on the property that I managed. And she was like, hey, I have this gynecologist, you know, I went to. She was like, I wasn't trying to get pregnant, but he has pictures all over his walls of babies that he's birthed and, you know, couples that he helped get pregnant. So I'm like, that sounds like what I need, you know, and it was a male doctor. I never had a male doctor. Everything about it was just different. So I'm like, you know, let me do it. So I go there and he's basically automatically wants to put me on medicine. You know, I give him the whole spiel. I tell him what happened previously. He wants me to do one thing, which is keep a temperature chart, buy a basal thermometer, and every morning take my temperature, like before I even get out of bed. For just as soon as you wake up, thermometer in mouth, which I sucked at because, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I got to pee. So I'm on my way to the bathroom. But if you get up, it's already too late. It has to be as soon as you wake up. So did the chart. He put me on 2 different medicines. One of them was to start my period. And then the other one was to make me ovulate while I'm having my period. Because we came to the conclusion that I'm not ovulating. That's what's happening. I have eggs, but they're not maturing. So they're not even making it up the fallopian tube or whatever. And, you know, all of that. So we've just been trying to pretty much get me to ovulate. But let me tell you, when you're on medicine, first of all, this medicine gave me crazy hot flashes. It gave me mood swings. It made me feel like crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it did start my
Remember
period.
the name of the medicine?
Clomid.
Clomid.
Clomid. Clomid is the name of the medicine. So I took one round of that. You have to take it like on, I don't know, from like the 4th day of your period until it's over. It's like a 5-pill pack. You take that, and it's the worst period I've ever had. Like, I bled so heavily taking this. I had hot flashes, like I was moody. And then the other thing is, now you have to schedule sex. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like, I'm taking this medicine. I don't want to waste it. So you need to have sex with me every day, or you need to have sex with me every other day. And it doesn't matter if you're tired, doesn't matter if you're not in the mood, And so it just created like such a non-realistic,
intimate setting.
Yes. And it was so hard. And I was putting a lot of pressure on it because I was the one going through all the side effects of the medicine, So I'm like, this has to work. I don't want to have to keep doing this, but it didn't work the first round. So we had a second round, also didn't work. So then I kind of gave up, like I was like, this is taking a toll on my body. At that time too, my husband was working overnight and I was working during the day. So I'd be at work from 9 to 6, get off and come home. He'd have to be at work at 6 and get off at 6 o'clock in the morning. But mind you, the person that came in after him would never come in on time. So a lot of times we wouldn't even see each other. Like, we would miss each other in the morning. I would go to work and then I would miss him before I got off at night. Every once in a while I would see him in the morning because he would get off on time and make it home, but not enough time to greet each other, have sex, and then me make it to work on time. And if he was so tired when he got off work, he'd been working all night. It was just like, it was the worst setup possible, it just like, so I just got really frustrated and just was like, shut the whole operation down, and at this time I was also going through a lot. This is my first year of marriage. I just lost my sister. I had her kids living with me. It was just so much stress on top of me trying to get pregnant and take this medicine, and the medicine's fucking with my hormones. And then I'm a property manager, which was so much stress in itself. It was just too much, so I just said, fuck the whole thing, and just, threw the whole thing away. And then I didn't pick it back up till about another year. I went back to that same doctor because they sent me a thing in the mail like, hey, it's time for your annual. And so I'm like, cool. So when I go, he pulls up my chart and was like, weren't we trying to get you pregnant? And I was like, yeah, about that. I kind of stopped coming. And he was like, well, do you want to do it again? And I'm like, yes. Not even going home to consult my husband or thinking about where I'm at in life. I was just like, yeah, let's do it. So back on the Clomid, back with the hot flashes and back not having a stable sex life to even be able to make this happen. So I only did one round that time, and I just was like, let's put the whole thing on hold, And so I put that on hold like in 2018, and we tried, in the middle of that, but it was like, just let's see if it happens naturally,
Naturally,
so we would just have sex naturally. And, I stopped taking the temperature, and I was just like, if it happens, it happens, So that's kind of where my mind frame was after that, because I had such a, it wasn't a horrible experience, but it was just like more than what I wanted to do at that time to get pregnant, I really felt bad about myself because I'm like, why is this something that I can't do naturally? So many people, even people that shouldn't have kids, have several kids and have no problem get pregnant, and they get pregnant by as many men as they want. And I took the long route. I didn't get pregnant in my teens. I waited till I was married. I'm 30 years old. I'm ready to start a family, and I can't. So that took a lot of toll on me. And I know my husband wants a child. So the fact that you're with me, you married me, and I can't even give you what you want, it's hard, because you don't know if that person will eventually be like, well, I don't want to be with you anymore. Especially if I get to the point where I'm at the age where I've hit menopause and it really is impossible for me, because he can have a kid at whatever age he wants. He could be 80 years old and still pop a kid in a 25-year-old. Not saying that he would, but I mean, he can. I can't. I don't, you're on a clock when you're a woman. And when that clock runs out, it's kind of like, well, you don't have any more eggs. You're not having a period no more. And your body physically is not going to do this for you. So I feel rushed. I'm 36 years old. I'll be 37 in July. Like, I don't have any time to make this happen for myself. Like, I really feel like the clock is ticking, so I'm dealing with that, but at the same time, now we've moved to Charlotte. You know, this is our first time living alone as a married couple. I know that sounds crazy. We've been together for almost 10 years. Our anniversary is April 15th. This year we'll be married 6 years, together for 10. And it's like a milestone, but it's like we had to move out of where I was from to a whole nother city just to be able to live alone and be able to have sex on our couch if we want to, you know, and things like that, and just be the couple that we are. So last year we kind of started the try back up. I'm going to a naturopathic doctor. So she does not use any Western medicine at all. Her methods are completely natural. Herbs, like sunlight, diet, like, you know, that's the path that I really want to be on. That's what I can get down with. So right now I'm just trying to control my diet, which I'm sucking at. I'm not even gonna lie, but I'm working on it. And I'm taking progesterone, and but it's in a herb form. So it's drops that I just 2 drops in the morning, 2 drops at night, and we're gonna see if that kind of gets my eggs to mature, because my problem is not eggs. I'm not infertile to the point where I don't have the system. It's just that it's not meeting maturity.
Yeah, it's the chemical imbalance.
It's a chemical imbalance.
Yeah, have you done your own research on what PCOS is?
I have.
Because I know you said that the one doctor was kind of going back and forth. Well, your testosterone is calling it PCOS, the PCOS is calling it. So with testosterone, with this natural doctor that you have, is, you know, I like that she's increasing your progesterone, like I can't say it either.
Yeah.
have you done your own research on other herbs or foods that you can take that will decrease your testosterone and increase your estrogen?
Yes. So soy is one thing that we talked about, that she told me that I need to add in my diet. I never really had soy in my diet because I thought it was something that we shouldn't have. I thought it was more of a non-edible plant, soy. So the soy milk, the soy sauce, the edamame, I was always thought that was bad. And, you know, so I kind of strayed away from it, but she's like, no, add that to your diet. That's going to help you. And the other thing was spearmint tea. It's supposed to also do that. And a lot of green vegetables, exercise, which is something that's really hard for me, because a lot of times when I get off work, I'm tired, and I have a whole bunch of other things that I'm also, like, little businesses that I'm trying to get going, my podcast that, you know, I put a lot of energy into, my dog, you know, but I really need to start putting exercise into my routine, because that's another thing that's gonna help me out with those levels, you know. And so I'm working on all of it a little bit at a time, and I'm actually thinking about creating like a 15-minute just update kind of about it, just to keep me accountable for it. And, you know, I can be posted, and maybe I can help someone else, because this journey is like not for everyone, you know, like it takes a lot to go through all of this and really end up with no results, because I never have been pregnant, like, ever. So it's not something I can say, what almost happened this time. I know my body might be able to do it. It's like, I have no idea. The only thing that keeps me having hope is the fact that my mom gave birth to me at 39. Her first child, she thought she couldn't have children. She had the same issues that I had. So it was obviously passed down, you know. And the only thing I will say is that in 2017, I did have a surgery. They had to remove what they call a dermoid cyst from my ovary. I think it was my right ovary. And so they removed that. My mom had that same surgery when she was about my age. Well, she had it at 35. I had it at 31, I think. Yeah, I was 31. And so she said 5 years after that, she got pregnant with me, which is, you know, at 39. Well, 4 years, whatever, almost 5 years, because, you know. So I was hoping the same thing would happen for me, but I've passed that 5-year mark. So now I'm just hoping that at some point my body will get it together, and, you know, that can happen for me. So we just, it's just a waiting game. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it definitely sounds, you know, if your mother was able to get pregnant, you know, I think that does give you hope. Plus, it sounds like the stress that you had when you were in in your previous residence was
Yeah.
probably adding to it,
Oh, yeah.
versus I know you still work and you have a lot to do, but it seems less stressful, in your
No,
new
my life is
residency.
way less stressful now. I mean, I miss my family. I do. But I mean, it's only me and him, and we needed this
Yeah.
time for our marriage.
Yeah.
We really did. And I'm honestly like the best year of our marriage probably has been last year. And it's because we really got to just be around each other.
So do you have you guys talked about any other alternatives, like in vitro or surrogacy or anything like that? Have you talked about those, or
So
adoption?
we have
Okay.
we talked about them all. And I would say that I am open to in vitro. I would also do surrogacy. I'm on the fence on adoption. But I could foster and kind of see how it goes. And I kind of, the fostering system just really sounds like you're trying a kid out. And it sucks to say that, but it kind of is that. And I would use it for what it is. And I would try to make the best choice for my family if I was going to adopt. It'd have to be right. But so my husband definitely would do in vitro. And he has already, I've already let him know upwards of how much I think it would cost. And his mind frame is like, well, we just got to have that much in the bank, and we just got to grind, and we got to make it happen. And I don't know how we're going to do that, but I mean, I would do whatever he wants to do. I would go as far as he wants to go. Like I would try it for him because I want to be able to give him a child. Not saying that I don't want it equally as bad, but he pushes me to kind of want to go a little bit further into different avenues. I think he may do surrogacy, but it would have to be, my sister said that she would do it for us. So if that would be an option, I think we might go that route. And adoption, he would not do. He doesn't feel like he would be able to love that child like as much as he could a child that came from us. Yeah. And I understand that, and I wouldn't want to put him into a situation where, and I'm not saying this will happen, but I don't want to feel like a single parent. And I feel like, and I know this is a dog, but let's say I got a pet, but my husband didn't really want the pet. I feel more of the responsibility to take care of it because I wanted it. You know what I mean? So I would, and it may be different with a child, but I just feel like if he doesn't want something and I force it on him, I kind of feel like I have to take on more of the responsibility. And I feel like I don't want to feel like that. Put it like that. Yeah. I don't want to feel like I made him do it. He's uncomfortable with it. And now it's like, I'm stuck with a kid, but we're still married, but I'm kind of a single mom because you didn't want this. Yeah, no, and I think that's very intelligent, because I think a lot of women do that because they want a child so bad. I've seen situations where the woman wants a child so bad and the husband's like, you know what, it's okay, we don't have to, but she wants a child so bad that she adopts. And then she forces the husband to want the child but this is not something that he wanted, and that breeds resentment. And so I think that's very, smart of you, very intelligent to say, you know what, even though this is something I want, if you force somebody else to do something, first of all, it might breed resentment in him, and like you said, he may not, if he's being honest with you and saying, hey, if a child's not mine, it's not that I won't care for it and everything like this, but it's a little bit more difficult for me to provide that, fatherly, paternal love to a seed that comes from myself on a child that doesn't come from me, and me and my husband have talked about the same thing, and I know we talked about fostering for a little bit. We were talking about fostering like older children that we thought can help get them out of the system and stuff like that. And the same thing, I actually just briefly talked with him. I thought he wouldn't be for in vitro, but he actually is for in vitro. So, and I'm the one, I was kind of on the fence. The thing with in vitro for me is I don't have eyes on what's happening. They're taking his semen and my egg, and they're going somewhere in a lab, and here's the baby, and I'm going to put it back in you. And I'm like, I told him, I was like, I feel like I'd have to be there, watch them take his semen, watch them take my egg, and I want to see all this. So you want to watch it cook? Yeah. Like I need to be a part of the entire process, just because my trust for people has just diminished over the years.
And then we also have thought about surrogacy. Now, I have an older sister, but she definitely, I don't want to say, I don't know if she can have, she's in her 40s. So I don't know if she can have kids, but she's also my half sister. We have different mothers. And he said, well, if we do surrogacy, even with somebody else, he's like, they'd have to be with us. You know, it'd have to be somebody that is going to be in the family. If he did surrogacy in the way where it was her egg, and he was like, if it was your egg and my sperm and it was implanted in her, then she wouldn't have to stay because it's our genetics. But even with that, you know, I think to myself, well, when you put, even if it's my egg and his semen and you're putting it into her body, there's still an exchange of fluids and all this stuff. And you grow, you know, I saw a movie one time, I forgot what it was called, or maybe it was a show, where a woman, you know, it wasn't a surrogacy. She was getting ready to just give her baby away for adoption. And after you've had that baby in your stomach, you grow attached.
I know. And I think about that, like, but you know what? I've seen some women that I'm like, yes, do it, you know, because it's going to be better for everyone involved, you know? So that's a, you know, that's a personal decision. You know what? People who do put their baby up for adoption, hats off to you, because that's a really big sacrifice. And so I feel like to make that decision, it has to be, I mean, I can't put myself in those shoes. I could never put my baby up for adoption, especially how bad I want, you know, and to actually achieve and just, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm also okay if I don't have kids, you know, like I've got to the point where I'm okay with it. You know, my ultimate goal is to live on a farm somewhere in the middle of some land. I would love to have a dog rescue. I know dogs are not children. That's the glory of them. You can leave their ass at home and they'll be fine all day while I go to work. No daycare has to be paid for, you know? So I would never say dogs can replace a child. That's crazy. I'm not one of those people, but I just love animals. So if I could have at least that to take my time and, you know, to have companionship with in that way, you know, just something that needs me in that way, not, you know, a baby, but just something like that, I think I'd be fine. You know, you can't miss something you never had. And I have a lot of nieces and a lot of nephews. I have great nieces and nephews. I'm a wonderful aunt. I love those kids like they're my kids. You know, my friends that have kids, I'm very close to their kids. So it's like, I'm not deprived of children. They're in my life all around. The only thing that keeps me from being 100% on the I'm okay with not having kids is my husband wants kids. You know, so that's why I can never all the way get there. But I have accepted that I'm okay with not having kids. Like I am. I still feel like I could live a beautiful life. I'm sorry, what?
No. Is he at the point where he's like, no, I want to have kids?
Yeah.
Like, does he feel like he needs kids?
Yeah. And also I feel like we get the pressure from his parents because they have 2 grandchildren, but they live in another state. And we live here. We moved, you know, from Texas here, and we ain't got no kids. So it's like, I maybe it's not the pressure, but I do feel the pressure. My mom too. We're gonna have some babies, you know, and I love kids and everyone knows how nurturing I am. So they're just waiting like, when are you gonna have kids? You know, society even looks at like, I heard comedians make a joke like, if you don't have a baby at a certain age, you have trash pussy. You know, it's just like, there's
I've never heard that
stigma. Yeah, well, it was on 85 South. But there's a lot of stigma that goes with the older woman with no kids. So sometimes it's embarrassing, you know, and people come to you with the questions and they never consider, well, maybe you're having problems having children. Maybe this really bothers you. It's like, when you gonna have some kids? You married? You ain't got no kids? Yeah, bitch, I don't. I'm having issues. My shit fucked up. Is that what you want to do? Like, goddamn. You know, sometimes you just want, I really hate how invasive it is. And it's like, you're not a real woman if you don't have children. Fuck that. I got a pussy just like everybody else. I just haven't had, you know, gave birth, but like, I'm still very much a woman. And I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me just because I haven't had a child.
Oh, yeah. You know, and I have to very much say that my older brother, one of my older brothers, he doesn't have any children. And I never thought about that, and me, our family, I don't know how much they do it now, but our family was always on him. Like, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And it never crossed our minds like, damn, what if they're having problems? What if they're having troubles?
Or what if
they
their choice is not to have kids? Like, that's nobody's business at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Like, I have to share that with everyone just so I won't be down my back. In my case, I am having issues. I do want children, but like, I don't want to talk about it every day all the time. That's really hurtful for me.
Yeah. I never, that's really tough. And I never thought about that. And especially the whole thing about not being a woman. Golly, that's some tough stuff to say to somebody. Golly, trash person.
I'm not saying no one has said that to me personally. No one has ever
even
said.
on that show.
Yeah, there's jokes out there, and there's memes, and there's all these things that are like downing women that haven't had children yet, or being putting something on your age, like, well, at this point you should have had that, or you should have had this. All these societal things, it's like drives you down a road of feeling bad, because it's like, fuck, this is the one thing as a woman I do feel like I should be able to do, and I'm having a lot of issues doing that. And it's like, what are you gonna do?
And it's so crazy, there's never a perfect age, because I got pregnant at 20. It's not young. I'm not in my teens. I'm not in high school. I'm not living with my parents. I was living with my parents at the time. That's not the point. At 20 years old, I was in college. And I was living at the time, I was living with my parents. I moved out. But anyway, I was still considered too young. I was too young, immature, this, that, and the other. Every time after that, there was always an issue, up until now. You're 37? That's a little old, isn't it? It's like, what? So it's never, I've never seen a perfect, well, I guess there are times when, maybe 27, but between 27 and 32, I guess, and you're married and you're well off, they have this specific niche they want you to be in to have kids or not have kids. And it's, it's really crazy. And I tell people all the time, I'm glad I had my oldest son early. At first, I felt really crappy and I felt embarrassed, but I am glad. And I tell people all the time, I wish I would have had him back to back to back.
Yeah.
I wish I would have kept going after that, because I didn't realize how much joy they do bring, how much you learn, how much they're different, So you're never going to be perfect in anybody's eyes. But I do want to say this. I know you said you're going to be starting your accountability. You want to have more accountability. So I wanted to do this because I know a lot of times when we do our podcast, we're sitting down. So I wanted to show where I'm at. Let people know right now. Oh my goodness, I have to look this up. What? Because this is my 4th pregnancy and people are like, how far along are you? I'm like, I'm close.
No, you're really close now. You got what, like 4 weeks left?
4 weeks. I am due 5/5, so literally 29 days. Yeah, literally 4 weeks.
Yeah, because they the 6th.
6th, yeah. So I am going to be on a journey as well. This was kind of difficult for me, but I said I'm going to do this because I want accountability too. So can you hear me?
Yeah. Let's see what this belly looking like.
So before I do all this, let me give people a disclaimer. I'm not going to strip on here, but I am going to show you, because with me, I want to say this. I've always had issues with my weight during pregnancy. Outside of pregnancies, I'm okay. But during my pregnancy, you should only gain about 20 pounds during pregnancy. With my oldest son, I gained 80.
Ooh.
With my oldest son, I gained 60. With my second son, I gained 80. With my daughter, I gained 60. And with this one, I think it's about 80 again. It's like 68, 60, 80. So right now I am 200 pounds. I'm probably a little bit more than that. When I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago, I was 200 pounds. And the baby's continuing to grow. So it's not like I'm going to stay at 2. I'm probably like 210.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'8". I'm actually like 5'7" and 3/4, but I just say 5'8". So I'm going to show everybody where I'm at because I want accountability too. Because after I have the baby, I do tend to slack. Like it seems like after my second boy, I was at my biggest. After my second boy, I was still 198. That's what I got down to, 198. That's it. After my girl, my husband really got in my butt because I said this on the podcast before. He told me I don't like fat women, and I wasn't like obese, but I was big. I was pretty big. So I want the accountability too. Plus, I just want to, show everybody. I don't want people to think that I'm lying. But here we are.
Boy, big mama.
She hasn't dropped yet. When she drops, my belly will be like down to here. So she'll probably come either right on time or maybe all my children have come a day or two early or right on time. I've never been late.
Oh my God, you're so big.
Yeah,
but in the most glorious way.
So, but I wanted to, once I have the baby, I'm going to take some more pictures and I'm going to do the same thing. I need to be on it. I need to, because even though I said I'm very healthy and, I don't have any issues. When I got my last blood test, my thyroid levels were a little high and my cholesterol was a little high. They were like, it's a little high. Not for us to say you have to take any medication, but it's at the point where they're like, you need to start eating right.
Yeah. I'm right there too. Honestly, the last time, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but the last time I went to the doctor, my cholesterol and some other number, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was so high. She told me like, I've never seen numbers this high for someone your age. She was like, if you don't get it together, you're in jeopardy of a stroke or a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
My doctor really told me that. So that's why I've been trying to get it together, but it's so hard.
It is. And that's why I want to do this. We can do it together. We can, anybody else that wants to join in, because it is, especially when you work or you have kids or you're busy. So my thing is, once you start, it's difficult for me to start. Once I get into it, it's cool. But then when I get into it and I see a little bit of a progress, I'm like, well, I look good. I can stop now. Once my husband's always like, it's not a lifestyle change if you don't keep it in your life. So
yeah, that's true. It was a trend.
Yeah, it was a trend. It was just for the moment. But I want to make this a lifestyle change. So I want to make sure.
Me too.
It doesn't have to be a rigorous, thing, but I want to make sure I'm doing something active every day. Even if it's, my husband, he takes our kids out and he gets on his bike, and he only gets on his bike. I know people are gonna be like, what? He was in a car accident, a couple car accidents, and he's injured his spine. So when he runs with the kid, he doesn't run himself because he would just injure his spine more. So he rides his bike because it's low impact on the knees and back. And he makes our kids run. So he'd be on the bike. But what I was doing right before I got pregnant was I would get on my rollerblades and I would ride with them while they ran and he was on the bike. And, but every day, he was always, let's go do this. So I want to make sure I'm still doing that, but I'm also doing more.
Yeah.
Because I know how I can get stuck in a sedentary way. And it's just not good. So we're going to keep each other accountable.
No, for sure. I mean, my fertility is on the line because I feel like I have seen results naturally when I lose weight. Now, and I'll be straight up. Right now, I'm about 161 to 4 pounds. And I say that because last week I stopped eating dinner. So what I would do is I would come home at night and I would cook. And I would take that for lunch. I would eat fruit for breakfast. And then I would eat what I cooked for dinner for lunch, a late lunch, so around 2 or something. And then I would intermittent fast from the last time I ate until the next time I ate
Next day.
the following morning. And I drink coffee every morning. So I'll have my coffee and my fruit. Then I usually take a poop. Let's just be real. But, you know, that's kind of my routine. So because of that, I think I lost 3 pounds last week. Because,
Okay.
and I'm saying think because my scale, I'm not all the way sure if it's giving me an accurate reading, and it's digital.
Mm.
So it's hard for me to see if it's correct or not. So we're in the
Right.
process of getting a new scale, and then I will update y'all again. But I believe I'm about 161 pounds right now after, you know, I lost that 3 pounds or whatever. And so my goal is 137. That's
Okay.
where I feel comfortable weighing. That 120 shit is for the birds, okay? My shit regulates when I get around 145. Honestly,
Okay.
that's when it's like the best. But I feel like my target weight is 137. Because the last time I got super healthy and lost weight and was working out daily, it was 2020, but I didn't have a job. That's the thing. I was able to focus on my health when I wasn't working. As soon as I started working, my health went out the window because it's like, I don't have time to even prioritize myself anymore because I'm giving 8 out of my 12 hours. Because here's the thing. A lot of people think we have 24 hours in a day. We have 12 hours in a day and 12 hours in a night. And those 12 hours in the night belongs to your sleep, honestly, you know, or a good portion of it, at least 8 to 10. So I'm giving 8 hours of my 12 hours to somebody else. So that 4 hours that I do have, I come home, I cook for my husband, I play with my dog, and I podcast. So it leaves me very little time to get what I need to get for myself, to be able to prepare meals the way I need to be able to lead the healthier lifestyle and work out and have this type of routine, because it's like go, go, go. And like as soon as I go to sleep, I'm waking up and I'm right back in the goddamn, you know, system that I was in yesterday. So
yeah,
my goal is to get out of that system, you know, but right now I need something to fund the other stuff. So that's
right.
But I did notice that when I wasn't working, I had optimal health. And as soon as I started working again, it just slowly took a
plummeted. Yeah. And that the funny thing, it's funny you say that, because when after my oldest, I got back down to like, let me say, I'll say it like this. When I was before I got pregnant with my oldest, I was at the lowest weight I had ever been in my life, because after high school, when I got out of high school, I was about probably 135, 140, which is small for me, you know, at my height. And then when I started going to college, I was an ROTC. So I was pushed into working out every single day. My eating habits had changed. I always ate like a bird anyway. I didn't really have a big appetite. And I didn't like sweets. I never liked sweets as a kid and into my teenage years, or breads or anything like that, pastas. So once I started working out, I had dropped down to 125, which actually, when I went to the doctor, she was like, if you lose any more weight, you're going to stop having your period. You know, 125 for my height was actually, I got to find a picture. I look like a crackhead. Being that skinny did not look good. So I did, after I got down a little bit, I started bulking up finally, because we do a lot of running in ROTC. So I slimmed down a lot. And then finally, when I started building my muscle weight, I looked a little bit better. And then I got pregnant. And
that's what it takes. So many women have told me that, like when I got down to this weight, or when I stopped doing this, because I've had some women tell me like when they stopped smoking, or when they started working out, or when they started losing weight, or, you know, just different things. But it's always, or the crazy one is when I'm about to leave that nigga. Those are the times that all my friends have gotten pregnant. It's like, as soon as I'm about to leave this nigga, you're pregnant. I don't know why.
Look, let me tell you this story real quick. This is probably gonna nip me in the bud, but I'm gonna put it out there. With my oldest son is prior to my marriage. It is prior to my marriage with someone else. I was in college. I was in ROTC. My life was on this path. And here's the funny thing. I didn't really want to be on this path. I was on this path because I thought this is what would make my family happy. You know, I'm in college, I'm getting my degree, I'm going to be an officer in the military and blah, 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 blah. And I was getting ready to go to airborne school. Like, that's when I started bulking up, because they were preparing me for airborne school, and you have to do a certain type of pull up and things like that. So I was doing more strength training than just cardio. And the guy that I was with, we were starting to run into some issues. And yeah, like you said, I was on the verge of like, this is not gonna work. And let me, like, literally, I remember there was a day. Let me say this first. I was on a patch. I had always been on birth control because my parents drilled it in my head. Don't get pregnant. Don't get pregnant. So I was on birth control. I had, I think I had my tooth pulled or something, and I had to take antibiotics. Now, nobody told me antibiotics and birth control don't work together. So I'm on the patch thinking everything's cool. And I remember the day before I had took the pregnancy test, I got wasted. I got drunk because I was like, it's done. You know, me and him got in a big argument. I was in that mindset, like, I'm leaving, like, this is it. My life is going on this track. He's not on this track with me. This is just not going to work. I got wasted. The next day, I started thinking to myself, the next day I found out that I had a urinary tract infection. I did an at-home test. I had a urinary tract infection. So I was going to go to the doctor, but something told me, and he was the one who told me, he was like, when's the last time you had your period? And I was like, I don't know. I never really kept up with that because I always wore a patch. You know, I just, sometimes I would, it would throw me off sometimes. So like, I don't know. Took the test, came out positive, and of course he was elated. He was happy about it. I was not happy. But it was, I will say after that we tried, because I started to make the decision, and this is going to be difficult. I started to make the decision to do something, and I decided not to, because once I went to the doctor and I heard the heartbeat, I said, what's that? He's like, oh, it's the heart beating. I said, the heart's, I'm 20, I don't know. I'm like, the heart's beating already? Because I was 6 weeks. I was like, the heart's beating already? He's like, yeah, the heart starts beating around 4 weeks. And I'm like, oh my God.
Whole heart beating for like 5 months.
Yeah.
I mean, for what, a month, at least a month?
About a month and a half. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. But I am thankful for that, because the path that I was on would have put me in that modern woman phase. I would have been, the officer with no kids and this and making this money and all this stuff.
Yeah.
My head was, I tell people all the time, my son humbled the shit out of me. He really did. He brought me down about 25 notches, and I still got a big ego. So imagine where I was. But it's like you said, I was at a point in time where I felt like it needed to happen. When it happened, it was like the end of the world, but afterwards, I'm like, that needed to happen to me for my experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time after that, back to my weight, it's been up and down, up and down. After my kids, I eat sweets like crazy. Breads are my favorite. Pasta is the shit. I don't know, kids change your body, I'll tell you that much, because I hated breads and pastas and sweets. And I remember honey buns were like, they're still kind of disgusting. But so yeah, I know it's very difficult. But accountability helps, and we're gonna get this going too. So because it was that's what I want to say. When I stopped working with my daughter, I had stopped working, and it was much, because there's time.
Yes.
Time.
Right. You can prioritize it.
Right.
And every morning I would get up, I would make me a smoothie. And then at that time, my husband wasn't working either. Well, he was, but he was making his own schedule. He's working for himself. So I would make him a smoothie. So we were both on the same schedule. I would make us a smoothie for lunch. I had snacks, I had everything set out. Right after I had my smoothie, I went and worked out for an hour, had different things I would do. I would go to the track. I lived right next to a middle school at the time. So I would go to the track and I'll, run the track. I was getting vitamin D. It was like, I would have thought I would have got pregnant around that time, because I felt like I was just doing everything correctly, but didn't happen.
And you said you got down to how much?
I got down to 130, I think 138, 137, 138. But I mean, it would fluctuate between that and about 140.
But still, that's,
and I kept it off for a good amount of time. But then once I stopped, once it was time to get back into the workforce, basically, I started working at a pizza place. So then I started eating pizza, and if you think about it, pizza is mostly pork toppings and a lot of grease and a lot of cheese, in which dairy is the worst for anyone who has PCOS. So there's a lot of hormones in dairy. So it's like, it's already going to mess you up there. And it's bad for acne. And that's another thing of PCOS is acne.
So I have a question. When you were down, one more quick, when you were down to that one, between that 138 and 135 and 140, did you ever get tested? Did you ever get your levels tested during that time?
No, because at this time, like, I wasn't even really trying to get pregnant. I wasn't going to the doctor. I didn't have a job, so I didn't have insurance, So
okay.
I was just it was whatever. I was taking care of myself because I had the time to. And to be honest, it all started because I got my wisdom teeth pulled. And that's kind of how it started, because got my wisdom teeth pulled. And mind you, and it's crazy because the day I got my wisdom teeth pulled, I had already planned for this, because I'm like, all right, you know how I am with change. Like, change was coming. I'm getting my wisdom teeth pulled. This is a big thing. So let's change a bunch of things at one time. So I already knew I wanted to change my diet during this time, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat whatever I want. So it was a conscious thing. So I came home from getting my teeth pulled. I'm all woozy, got my ass on that scale, and I took a picture of it. I was 178 pounds. When I took that, biggest I've ever been. I was huge. I was a fucking butterball, because I'm already short. And, another thing of PCOS, your weight, when you gain weight, it's always in the center. And it doesn't distribute, So it's not like my boobs will get big and my ass will get big, which I would love. It's just my stomach. You know what I mean? And my thighs get a little bit bigger and my arms get bigger, and sometimes my breasts come out on the side right here, but it's not like an attractive big. Yeah, it's like, ugh, and I can't fit my clothes good, and my back starts hurting and my feet start hurting because I can feel that much weight on this small ass frame. So 178 pounds, that's how much I was that day when I came home from getting my teeth pulled. Within 1 week, I had already dropped within probably 170, 175, something like that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't eating, and everything that I was eating, I was putting in a blender.
Out.
No, I was blendering it. So I was only eating soups, and I was making smoothies. That's it. Soups and smoothies.
Oh, because your wisdom teeth were pulled.
Because my wisdom teeth were pulled. And and I would gargle after that, and that would be that. And I wasn't eating anything. Just that, because I couldn't. And so I did that for a week. And I'm a scary person, right? So I didn't want to get the dry socket. So I did it for 2 weeks, and I dropped a little bit more weight. People could tell instantly. I could feel it in my clothes instantly. Like, the weight was just coming off of me. Then I started adding working out to it, but I stayed on that diet even when I could eat again. I would just eat smaller portions, because once you start losing weight, your stomach gets smaller. So you're not as hungry. And my problem has never, it is what I eat, but it's really how much I eat. I overeat. Yeah.
That's for everybody. I promise you. It's for everybody. Yeah.
I overeat, and I like to snack. I like chips. I love sweets. I love bread. All the shit I shouldn't love. All the simple carbs that I shouldn't be having. That's what I love. But, I will eat vegetables. I'll make a mean ass salad. Like, I make beautiful, delicious salads. And I know how to cook good. It's really just the time. It's the preparation that it takes and the mind frame that I lose, because I'm so worried about building somebody else's freaking business. And that's really why I want to release myself from that.
But I love that you say that, because I hear so many people, I even have a friend of mine who's always, she's not that bad up and down her weight, but she's, with her, she's very health conscious. And that's always the biggest thing, time. Like, she spends a whole day Sunday prepping for the week, to try to keep from, because she's actually very good at saying no to stuff. That's not her problem. But she has said, once she starts gorging, she can't stop.
Yeah, that's
which
me.
I've never experienced that. Like, I have eaten to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, if I eat another bite, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. And I'll stop. She's like, no, I can keep eating. She's like, that feels good. Like that. She said, feels like a hug. I'm like,
no, it's a taste for me. But honestly, growing up, I feel like I had like a mini eating disorder. Like, I never threw up, and I would starve myself sometimes. I actually would. I would go long periods of time without eating when I wanted to lose weight quick, you know? So I have a bad relationship with food. You know, I see food as either comfort or the enemy, but never like dietary. Like, I need this. It's either, oh, I'm on a diet, I can't have this, and I'm mad about it. So when I can have it, I'm going to have as much of it as I want. And I'm going to go crazy for several days in a row, you know? And then the other part is, well, I'm not going to eat anything, because if I can't have some of it, I'm not going to have all of it. And I'm sick of eating salad, so I'm just going to starve myself.
So I think that's important to change your mindset too, because I realized I didn't have that as a kid. I never had like an eating. I've never been overweight until I was an adult. And it's funny because what you said, I didn't realize like the pain. I remember when I was at my heaviest, when I was at that 198, I'm like, I'm a fucking Snicker bars away from being 200 pounds, and I don't have a baby inside of me. And I remember I said, I'm gonna start running. And I started, and this is somebody, I've been active all my life. And I started running at 198, and I thought I was gonna die. Yeah. Like, I felt like I was carrying around children on my back. Yeah. And there was other things I noticed that I did that I would see other overweight people do. And I started picking it up, and to me.
Wait, did you do the overweight when they be like this on their shoes?
No, I wasn't that overweight.
You know what I'm talking about.
You know what I would do? I was always adjusting my shirt. I was always pulling it out, because my weight is like that. My weight, people can't tell when I'm overweight because my butt gets really big, my legs get really big, my arms get really big, and my back kind of gets big. Yeah. My stomach doesn't get that big. My stomach will pudge out, but I can hide it better than most people. So most people are like, oh, you thick, girl. I'm like, nah, bitch, I'm fat. Y'all can say you thick all you want to because I'm shapely.
Right. But you know how much weight should be on your frame.
Exactly. And I don't like, my knees were hurting. You know, I was always tired. Yep. So once I started feeling those things, I said, this shit's got to stop. No, I knew I have to find a picture. I went to visit my brother in Florida, and I was sitting on the beach, and I had on this black bathing suit, and he took a picture of me, and I saw that picture, and it was me and my husband. At the time, we weren't married, but I was sitting next to him. I was bigger than him. You know, my husband's not a small guy. You know, I was huge, and I was like, this is fucking embarrassing. You know, my body was wider than his. And I was like, I look like a beached whale.
Dude, sometimes to take a picture, I don't know why, but the same thing started my shit. I had posted a picture, but this was a while back. I lived in Corpus Christi, and I posted a picture online. I was in the water, had on a two-piece. I thought I was looking good. Everybody in my family called me like, what the hell you been eating? I'm like, am I fat? And so I looked at the picture, and I'm like, oh, I am fat.
Yeah, my dad helps with that too. You getting kind of fat, ain't you? He's always the one to let me know. And my husband too, but he's not. He's very, you know, even though, you know, I joke. Well, I don't joke. My husband was honest with me. He was like, I can do anything with fat. I can do anything with fat. And he would, you know, tell me, and it wouldn't be never in a negative way, but he was always, you know, pushing me to, you know, work out. Don't eat that. Why are you eating that? You know, he was always trying to push me, and I would ignore it, you know, and that's on me. So now I try to look at those things, and I still need to get better at listening.
Girl, don't we
like like even the other day, I went to the store and I was craving some Reese's so bad. So I grabbed a bag of Reese's, I stuck them down my purse, and he looked at me and he looked at it, and he was just sitting there shaking his head. And but
did you still buy it?
No, I had already bought it. I had already bought it at that point. But the thing I also love about, you know, my husband is every pregnancy he's gained weight with me. You know, he's always gained weight with me. Like right now, he's not big, but he is overweight for his height. But afterwards, he gets into it, but he loses weight, like, because when he fasts, he can fast. Yeah. He cannot eat nothing for days. And when I fast, I am horrible at it. So I know I won't be able to fast after the baby because I got to eat to, keep the baby
Yeah,
healthy.
breastfeed and everything, yeah.
But I am definitely going to make sure my portions are, you're eating for two. No, I'm not eating for two. I'm eating while I'm pregnant and afterwards. I'll make sure I'm eating healthy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make sure my portions are small, and I need to make sure I do a lot of hydrating. There's this show, and I think I don't know if I mentioned it to you. I think it's I forgot what it's called. I forgot what it was. So anyway, the woman couldn't have kids, and her husband wanted kids really bad. So she went ahead and allowed another woman to have the kids for her, but it was done naturally. It wasn't in vitro fertilization. It was he had sex with her to get her pregnant. And they ended up being like, it was almost like a polygynous thing, but not really, because she lived somewhere else and she had her own life. She didn't date or anything like that. She just ended up getting pregnant. And he did this with a few women because he wanted a boy. He wanted a boy, and he had some girls, and he's like, no, I want a boy. So he did it with a couple of different women. But aside from a bunch of different women, would you let your husband do it that way? If you had an option, would you let it be the natural way for him?
But it wouldn't be of me at all. It would just be him with another woman?
Yeah. Like let's just say, for example, it wasn't PCOS. You just couldn't have kids, weren't producing the eggs, and he really wanted a child. So you're like, okay, let's do well, it wouldn't even be surrogacy because that's somebody carrying your child. It would just be him getting somebody else.
Wait, here's my question about that before I answer this question. So this doesn't the sex of the baby come from the man? So like, why does he feel the need to have different baby mamas when you're the one who's producing the girls? Is that not right?
Well, and that's so, yes, here, I don't know. I've heard a couple different things. I've done research, and so far the consensus is the man dictates the sex of the child. I have heard, but it's very rare that I've heard of the female. But yeah, I've heard the man dictates the sex of the child. But some men feel like if they have sex with a bunch of different women, then maybe that'll change. I don't know, but
not if you're deciding it. Okay, but anyway, would I let my husband have sex with another woman and have a child with her?
And then the child comes and lives with you.
And she's not involved at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? It's weird because I said I was for adoption, but my husband's not because the baby wouldn't be of him. So it's kind of us meeting in the middle. It's kind of like we adopted a baby that's of you. That's how I would feel about it.
Yeah, it would be of him. It would be his seed. It just wouldn't be your egg because it would be from another woman. But you said, because you're kind of is he for adoption? No, you say he's not, but you are. So yeah, you'd be adopting, like you'd be adopting his kid is what it would be.
You know what? I don't know. Only because I wouldn't want to grow that kid up thinking I'm his, even if I adopted a kid, I'd be the type of adopter that I want to tell you the truth. I want you to grow up knowing I'm your foster mom. I don't want you to get to 18 years old and I'm like, hey, sit down this whole time. Not really me, I wouldn't, that happened to me as a child, so I would never keep a secret like that from a kid. I would want them to know like, hey, I love you. I am your mom, but I did not birth you. And, if I could tell you who did birth you, I would like to. If I can't, then, maybe when you turn 18, you can find out. Or if it's sealed forever, then you just won't know. But I want you to know the truth. That's number one.
Okay.
So I could never raise this kid to make this kid think that I'm its real mom. I would have to let him know the circumstance in which he came about. So that's number one. And of course, like, I wouldn't just be like, yeah, you really belong to someone else at 3 years old. But, when he's old enough to comprehend, I want him to know, like, hey, your mom is actually so-and-so, but I'm still your mommy too. I would have to explain it in a way in which they could understand it, but they would have to know. So
Okay.
that's the only
But
thing
you would,
about that. I don't think my husband would do that though.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I didn't really talk with my husband about that aspect. I know we did talk about surrogacy. I guess we never talked about how the surrogacy would happen. I think if I couldn't have kids and I okayed it, I think he would. Because I know he's really for kids. I think he's really for kids. And he is, I don't think he is for kids and having kids. And I think I would be okay with it too. But I also think we would come to the agreement, if that were to happen, that person would probably stay with us. Only because I'm with you I guess I should say I'm more with your husband, where it's not that I couldn't raise a child that isn't mine, but I want them to know the truth, and I want them to know who their maternal, mother is. I want them to be, because like I tell people all the time, I do things in my life and I feel my mom. I'll speak and I was like, oh my gosh, I sound just like my mom when I say that, or my dad too. Like when I laugh or when I do things, I'm like, oh, that's my dad. And even though it can be annoying, I feel them. I feel my grandparents.
Yeah.
And to me, that's very important, to have that connection with your parents. So I think if we did do that, it ended up being like, we just all gonna be together, because I want you to know your mother and your father, but I can imagine it could be a tough thing if I couldn't have kids. And because what's the book in the Bible? Is it Sarah? I believe it's Sarah and her, I think she was I don't want to say maid, but she allowed her to get pregnant because she couldn't have kids. And she ended
I
up
want to ask my husband what he thinks.
Yeah, because that's we have to do that and come back to that one, because I didn't ask him that specific question.
I would love to ask him, but I don't see him wanting to do that, because I feel like he wants a child that's both of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it came down to it, and I just, even like, let's just say I gave up and was like, look, I ain't taking those shots. Those shots that they have for in vitro, I ain't doing it. I don't want to do it. Whatever. It ain't for me, right? If I gave him the option, I wonder how he would feel about it. Like if I just said, like, the processes are over for me, it is what it is. I really don't know, but I don't see him being with somebody else. Like, even if I gave him permission to, he's not that guy. I just feel like, but maybe he is, I don't know. And maybe it's something we can explore if he is up for it, because I'm not all the way not for it. There have to be a lot of rules and stipulations. It wouldn't be something that I would go into lightly. And in your situation, if you were to do it, because I know you're open for a polygamy, would that woman be in a relationship with your husband?
I think so. I think that's the only way, because I wouldn't want a child to see a separation. That affects a child too. So let's say, they have a child and she's there, but he doesn't get to see how a relationship works. He sees this woman and daddy together, but not mommy and daddy. And I think it's very important for a child to see how that is for love to happen between a man and a woman, especially their own parents. Even with me, my parents divorced when I was 2. And even though I got to see my step parents together, I didn't get to see my mom and dad together.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I yearn for that. I yearn to see how their dynamics work, how they laughed, how they, just
inside jokes and who's gonna punish who, and
right.
I also long for that. Like, I just wonder what it would have been like to come home and have my dad pick me up and hug me, or would it be like that? Would I come home and I hate his ass? Like, I just want to know, But that's what makes me want to have kids too. Is I want to see that through my kids.
Yes.
Because I'm with my husband. I don't ever plan on being with nobody else. So if I do have kids by him, they're going to see us together for the long run in a successful relationship too, you know, because we get along very well. We might bicker, but for the most part, we know how to make decisions together. And I feel like he'd be a great dad. So I want that, but I don't want to get hung up on thinking about it, because I know a lot of people say the more you think about it, it's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Don't think so much about it. So that's really what I just try to do.
Well, I honestly think the opposite. You know, I think, you know, obviously you shouldn't think negatively about it, like, oh, this isn't going to happen. But I think thinking about, along with, you know, working on your health and your diet and everything, but having that positive affirmation and mentality and putting the thoughts out there of, man, what would it be like? You know, seeing my little girl come home and daddy picks her up, or see my little boy out there playing whatever sport your husband likes to play, or
football.
You know, he's a country boy. So like my husband, seeing I have this picture that I put everywhere, and it's my husband and my son, and they're fishing, and they're looking opposite ways, and they're fishing separately. And then when they come together, they're walking. And my husband just reaches his hand down, and they're holding hands. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's like those moments.
Yes, it's like nothing. You couldn't pay me enough money in the world to take that from me. You know, or my husband, when he plays with my daughter and she squeals and laughs, I mean, it feels, because I'm horrible with playing my kids. I need to get better. I have no patience, but my husband he will run around this house with these kids and play with them for hours. You know, let them jump on him and get on his back and do all this stuff. And it's like, they need that. They need that childhood.
Right.
You know, so I would say it's good to think about those things, you know, to have that manifestation of that. But yeah, I wouldn't say, you know, dwell on the, you know, oh, this might not happen, or, you know, things like that. So
yeah, well, that brings us pretty much to the end of our episode. Our altar call today is basically for anyone who is having a baby, pregnant, thinking about having a baby, anyone who does water births or home births, which is very, very cool. Anyone who's going through fertility, anyone who's lost a child, that's going through anything concerning babies, having a baby, not being able to have a baby, you know, we're here for you. So come in our comments, let us know what you're going through, how it's going. Has this episode helped you at all? You know, we shared some really personal things today, so I hope you can take something away from it and that it improves your lives. Like, that's always the goal for us. So subscribe. Make sure you're turning your notifications on, so that way every time we drop a new episode, you're going to be able to get it. And before we leave out, I would like for Nicole to give you guys a little message, because in 4 weeks she's about to have a baby. So let them know what they can expect from us, like when baby comes.
So yes, when baby comes, I am definitely going to try to balance everything, because now that would be my full-time job. But I do want to say, you know, I'm gonna wait to give the name. I think I'm gonna wait to give the name, because we do have a name picked out for her, but I will let everybody know when she gets here. Just like Lenee said, I love when you guys comment. We're getting a few more comments. Keep the comments coming in if you have questions, concerns, opinions, all that. We love that. Make sure you're hitting us up and letting us know how you feel and what you think.
That's right. So we just want to update you on what's going on with us, because we do have a new baby joining the Live from 1985, the podcast family. But until next week, we are out of here. Thank you so much. We appreciate everybody for watching, and we love you guys. Bye.
See you next time.